There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from succeeding somewhere you don't feel like you belong. It doesn't look like burnout from the outside. You're still showing up, you're still performing, still getting the results. But inside, there's this low hum of something that feels like waiting. You're waiting to get caught, waiting for someone to figure out a mistake was made, waiting for the moment the whole thing collapses and confirms what part of you already believed. That's not a confidence problem exactly. It's a belonging problem. And they're not the same thing. Most people try to solve it with more results, more proof, more achievement, as if eventually the evidence will pile up high enough that the feeling goes away. But that's not how it works. And the reason it doesn't work is one of the most quietly devastating things about how human beings actually function. Misty Copeland was already a soloist with American Ballet Theater, one of the most prestigious ballet companies in the world, when she almost walked away from all of it. Not because she was failing, not because she wasn't talented enough, not because the work wasn't there. She was succeeding, and she still felt like she was trespassing. Ballet is one of those worlds where the unspoken rules are louder than the spoken ones. There's a body type, a background, a lineage, an aesthetic that has been defined and enforced for centuries. And Misty Copeland, a Black woman who didn't start dancing until she was 13, which is super late by elite ballet standards, was navigating all of that while also trying to figure out who she was inside an institution that hadn't historically made room for someone like her. She's talked about feeling like she was losing herself, like she was performing belonging rather than feeling it, like the work of being in that space was taking something from her that the results weren't replacing. What pulled her back wasn't a better training program. It wasn't a new goal. It wasn't a productivity hack or a mindset exercise. It was two people. Raven Wilkinson, a pioneering Black ballerina who had endured segregation, threats, and isolation while touring with Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo decades earlier, and Arthur Mitchell, the first Black principal dancer at New York City Ballet and the founder of Dance Theater of Harlem. What mattered wasn't simply that they encouraged Misty. It was that they embodied a possibility she had never fully seen reflected back to her. Wilkinson showed her that the feeling of being an outsider wasn't proof that she didn't belong. It was a feeling someone else had survived before her. Here was a Black ballerina who had navigated the same invisible barriers and remained standing. Her existence gave Misty a lineage, and Arthur Miller gave her something even more direct. He refused to treat her success as an exception or a lucky break. Again and again, he pushed back against the story that she was somehow sneaking into a world that wasn't meant for her. You belong here, not because you're talented enough, not because you've worked hard enough, not because you've earned enough accomplishments to justify your presence. You belong here because this art form belongs to you too. That's what changed things. They weren't giving her confidence. They were helping her name something she had never fully been able to claim for herself, that she wasn't a guest in ballet. She was part of it. Here's the thing about belonging. It doesn't come from the outside in, but it also doesn't come from the inside out the way people assume. Most people are taught a two-part formula. Confidence leads to action, and action leads to results. Believe in yourself. Take the leap. Succeed. Others experience the reverse version. Results create confidence. Achieve enough, prove enough, accomplish enough, and eventually you'll feel secure. But Misty's story points to a third variable neither version fully accounts for: belonging. Belonging sits underneath both confidence and achievement. It's the sense that you're not an accident in the room, that your presence doesn't require constant justification, and without that, confidence and results can pile up, while the feeling of being an outsider never actually leaves. And a lot of people, especially people who got somewhere through exceptional effort, through improbable circumstances, through sheer force of will, arrive at success without having built any of that. They made it, but they made it alone. And alone means no one on the inside of the thing ever looked at them and said, "You're supposed to be here." Think about where you've felt this. Maybe it's a job you've earned, but every time you walk in, you feel like the least qualified person in the room. Maybe it's a relationship you're in, but some part of you is still waiting for the other person to realize they could have done better. Maybe it's a community you joined, a table you got a seat at, a door that finally opened, and you got in, but you can't shake the feeling that you snuck in. The default move is to work harder, do more, be better, prove it. And that makes complete sense. It's the same move that got you there in the first place, right? But it doesn't fix the belonging gap. It just gives you more evidence that your brain isn't fully using, because the brain that's running the "you're trespassing" story isn't looking for evidence. It's looking for confirmation. Show it success, and it finds a way to file that under luck, or timing, or someone else's generosity. The story protects itself. The only thing that reliably interrupts that story is a different kind of evidence. Evidence of belonging. Someone who already feels at home in that world looks at you and recognizes you as part of it. They don't just acknowledge what you've done, they acknowledge who you are in relation to the space itself. That's what Raven Wilkinson gave Misty by showing her that there was a place for someone like her in ballet. And that's what Arthur Mitchell gave her every time he reminded her that she wasn't borrowing her spot. She had a right to stand in it. That's the power of being witness. That's why mentorship does something that results can't. And not mentorship in the transactional sense. Find someone successful and extract their strategy. That's useful, but it's not the thing. The thing is witnessing. Having someone who belongs in a place reflect back that you belong there too. And it doesn't have to be explicit. Sometimes it's just watching someone who looks like you or came from where you came from exist comfortably in a space you thought wasn't built for people like you. It recalibrates something. It doesn't add evidence to your pile. It changes the story the evidence is running through. And here's the part that transfers beyond Misty's world, beyond ballet, beyond any specific industry or ambition. Most people who feel stuck, who feel like they're performing their life instead of living it, who who feel like they're succeeding on the outside while something feels off on the inside, they're not missing strategy. They're missing belonging. Not belonging in the social sense, belonging in the psychological sense. The felt sense that you're not here by mistake. So, what do you actually do with this? The first thing is to name what's actually happening. If you've been chasing results to fix a feeling and the results keep coming, but the feeling doesn't change, that's useful information. The problem isn't the results. The problem is the story the results are running through. The second thing is to find your Raven Wilkinson. Not necessarily a formal mentor, just someone who is already where you're trying to go, who can reflect back the thing you can't fully see in yourself. Their existence, their visible, undeniable presence in a space you want to occupy, does something that no amount of self-talk can replicate. And the third thing is to let someone say the thing to you. Not the pep talk, not the, you've got this, the specific, honest witness thing. You deserve to be here. Sounds small. It's not small. Misty Copeland didn't walk away from ballet. She went on to become the first Black female principal dancer in American ballet's 75-year history. Something shifted, and it wasn't more hard work. It was someone finally naming the thing she was carrying and telling her she didn't have to carry it alone. If you're watching this and you need some one-on-one conversation with me where we can flesh out what you're dealing with, join my school community. The link is in the description. And please share this video with someone who's been having the same conversation with themselves. I'll see you in the next one.